मधुमेतु मां ब्रह्ममेव मधुमेतु मां ब्रह्ममेधया मधुमेधया ब्रह्ममेव मधुमेधया। ओम शांति शांति शांति। May the existence absolute, all-pervading Brahman be realized by us. May the highest bliss be realized by us. May Brahman, who is highest bliss too, be realized by us. May we realize Brahman by purification of our understanding. May we realize the highest bliss by purification of our understanding. May we realize Brahman, which is also the highest bliss, by purification of our understanding. Om, peace, peace, peace. I feel always very happy to come to this Sacramento Center, started by great Swami Yogatmananda ji and nurtured later by Swami Shraddhanand ji, continued by Swami Providence ji, with so many wonderful devotees being here. And also I feel specially privileged that he has asked me to give a talk too. This time my trip, as he mentioned, was not really to give lectures in this part, to meet friends, devotees, and of course especially the sadhus, the swamis. So therefore I had written that I will be coming on such and such date, and then it was suggested or asked that I should give a talk. And I am especially thankful to him, Swami Providence ji, for changing the schedule of your regular weekly class to accommodate my convenience, because I have a flight to catch from here, from Sacramento Airport, and it is a regular flight that will have a regular gate number, not gate number between two numbers. It is so. It is so. Therefore, I am specially thankful to him. It is somehow there is a reputation. Every person has some reputation, and I don't know for what reason, but some have the idea that I give humorous lectures. As soon as I came today to the Sacramento train station, our Steve, he was there to pick me up and drive me here, and he said, Swamiji, Swami, will you tell some jokes? As if this is the Vedanta lectures are just jokes. That is a difficult thing, you know, that I told him I tell very serious things and then people take it as joke. When I am telling joke, they sit there with all that very serious faces. So friends, this particular topic has not much scope of jokes. So please forgive me if I don't tell you any single joke. Although the title of this topic is looks catchy because of the phrase that is taken from one of the most popular books of, say, last about 20 years or so. But the idea is an old idea, very common idea in study of religion and Vedanta, that the truths of religion cannot be grasped by logic, by a rational mind. We need to be rational, but we need not be limited to rationality. There is a scope for rationality, but then to get to the truth, we need to go beyond that. And it also means, again, I am using logic, but then to show the limitations of logic and how much is the scope of those limitations. You have to go beyond logic and beyond what is called physical science, because the basis of physical science is again logic, rationality. It should be rationally understandable and explainable. It is not that that alone makes it physical science, but that is an important necessity, that it has to have a rational mathematical explanation. As they say, science speaks in the language of mathematics. Mathematics is the language in which you see the sciences, they express themselves. So, therefore, the religious or spiritual truths, they are not that understandable by these things. This has been the statement made right from the old days of Upanishads, and even you see Sri Ramakrishna, Swami Vivekananda, they all have told that no, you cannot grasp it by reason. Reason can have only some negative value, means negative in the sense where you will not get it. Yeah, it is. It can eliminate certain things for you. Therefore, it is sometimes said that the reason, the utility of reason is like police. Police doesn't tell you to do something good. It is not its scope. But if you are going to do something evil, then the police will stop you. Hey, you can't murder that fellow. Yeah, that's not allowed. That is, but it will not tell you to give donations or such things. That is not the scope of police. So, scope of reason is also more or less like a negative thing. That okay, it will tell you that where you cannot find it, how you cannot find it. So, one of our great Swamis used to say, when I first heard it from him, I found it hard to digest, because at that time I was a college student studying science and was thinking of this, that well, science can solve everything. There is no limit to the growth or scope of science, and so with science we will be able to unravel all the mysteries. So it came to me as a rude shock when he said the best science is that which understands the limitations of science. So, and then I thought about it, and gradually I saw that how important to know this. we need to use something, but also we need to know the limitations of it. That it is of course good, to if you have a dishwasher. Dishwasher? Yeah, so in India I didn't know what is a dishwasher. And there is, well, I didn't mean to tell joke, but one is just coming. That there are all those, the backroom offices of all these big companies, the support staff and all, telephone support, they are somewhere in India or somewhere. So one lady from here called, my dishwasher is not working. Now the person there in India didn't know what it is. So what to tell, now that my dishwasher is not working. So he said, well, stop paying him. So it is, the dishwasher has some utility. It can wash your these dishes. Some pots can be cleaned very nicely, but it cannot cook for you. For cooking you require a different means. For washing, okay, but not for cooking. So it has its limitation. So everything has limitation. We have to understand its limitation. Otherwise we become fanatic. That is how fanaticism comes. There is another story that Swami Vivekananda also has referred to, that nothing like leather, that there were many these ministers in the court of a king, and then there was the possibility of attack from enemy. So there was a conference that how can we prevent that attack, what should we do? And the first, that minister who was a diplomat, he said, well, diplomacy is important. We should go and talk to them, that why do they want to attack and how to prevent that, and it is, we should negotiate. Things should be solved on the negotiating tables. That is the way. The one who was the military general, he said, no, the military might is important. Before they could attack us, let us do a preemptive attack. So it is, his idea was that, because he was general, so it is, he was a military man. For him the solution has to come through military. And then others were giving various ideas, and amongst them there was a cobbler that working with leather. So making leather, then leather shoes and other leather things. So he said, well, let us, make a wall of leather around the city. Nothing works like leather. So it is for that person, everything can be solved by leather. That is the most important thing. We have like that some people, one of our members in Providence, now he has changed his outlook a bit, but he had been carpenter. Not by profession, but by hobby. So according to him, everything has to be made of wood. And when I told him, no, these shelves, I don't want the wooden shelves, I want them to be plastic, and that too perforated. He said, no, that will look terrible. It is, and it will not last. It will break quickly. I said, no, it will not. And then he said, no, the wood is the best thing. So I had to convince him that, okay, you may have your opinion, but for my satisfaction, make these things of plastic. I will bring you those things. You just have to fix those. He grumblingly agreed that because you are telling I will do this, but that's not the right way to do things. So you can do. Then years have passed since that happened, and those shelves are still doing very well, very nice. So the wood is for him because he was dealing with wood. That is the best thing for him. So those who deal with reason, they think that reason can solve everything. Science can solve everything. No, that is not the case. Science has use. Do not take the other extreme views so that science is useless. That's not the case either. Science has its own domain in which it will be useful. But to know the ultimate truth, it is useless. I mean, it is not going to help too much. You have to go beyond that. And since this truth is very difficult to express in words, therefore the scriptures have told it in various ways. Like Kathopanishad says, Naisha Tarke Namatirapaneya. This understanding can never be reached through tarka, means logic. Reason and logic will not be able to reach that understanding, that awareness. It will not, it's not sufficient. It also, you see, it says that you have to therefore go beyond mind and speech. And thus, it becomes a question, because we understand many things in the world through science and reason, we become fanatic about it. That therefore, one lady was just asking me that, well, her son always wants to understand things by reason. But certain things cannot be understood by reason. There is a scope for reason, yes, but beyond that scope, reason will not be working. This needs to be understood. So there is a beautiful passage in Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna where Sri Ramakrishna is telling M, the chronicler of the Gospel, that promise that you will not do this reasoning anymore. Don't do the reasoning anymore about it. Have faith. And he makes him repeat 3 times that I will not get into this reasoning anymore, because otherwise you will be stuck there. In Shvetashvatar Upanishad, and that comes almost the last verse of that Upanishad, not exactly last but close to the end of the Upanishad, that if that through science, it doesn't use that word science, but the idea is quite apparent, that suppose by the lot of development you are able to cover this whole earth by and fold it in your armpit, as it were. You fold the whole universe. Yada charmavad akasham, this whole sky, whole space, if you are able to fold the whole space like a small piece of carpet or leather, yada charmavad akasham, veshtayasyanti manavaha, that you can roll it and keep it in your armpit, then alone tada devam avidyaya dukkhasyantam bhavishyati, then alone one will be able to get to the end of suffering without knowing God. The message is quite clear that if you want Since this is an impossibility, rolling the whole space and putting it under your armpit, how will you? Because you are part of the universe. So it is not possible to roll the whole space, including yourself, and again put it under your armpit. That's not possible. And therefore, if you want to go beyond suffering, then the only way is to know the God. By knowing that self-luminous, divine principle, then alone you will be able to go beyond suffering. Sometimes people have a very funny, terribly erroneous idea that spirituality, religion, and especially that Vedanta is impractical. It is good to think about, it is a good intellectual exercise. Some books are so good, some speakers they titillate your brain, your nerves a bit more, and then you feel that you have understood and you like that, but it is not really, they think that it is not practical. It's all right on Sundays we go to lectures and listen to it, but then there is the Monday morning that we have a different life from Monday onwards. So it is not practical. Many have expressed this in such blunt ways that one lady, she works in New York in the field of this finances and very cutthroat competitions and all such things, works very, very hard. So after one such Vedanta lecture, she asked this question, that Swami, what you say, well, it doesn't work in the real world. I still remember her expression. In real world it doesn't work. In real world you have to be street smart. And not only, she was so confident, she was expressing it very forcefully. Everybody in the room got kind of convinced that what she says is right, that it is. This Swami, whatever he says is okay, but like for listening to something like a story, but it is not practical. Well, friends, nothing is more practical than this message of Vedanta. Just think of it, that do we not want the end of suffering, whether we care for the intellectual subtleties or not, whether we get called as Vedantists or whatever other religious term that we apply to ourselves. And do we not all care to go beyond suffering? That is the practical thing. If I ask you here, who wants more sufferings? I don't think any hands will go up, hey Swami, I want more suffering. No. All of us are looking to the end of suffering. Shankaracharya mentions this in one of his commentaries as the goal of Vedanta. What is it? Atyantika dukkha nivritti paramananda vaptischa, the total cessation of suffering and experiencing paramananda, the most intense bliss. So, this is the practical goal of everyone. Even this little child sitting there, he also wants the highest bliss, and even a very aged person also wants to have that same. No further pain, but highest happiness is what I want. And so, find out how it happens. It certainly does not happen, as we have seen, by and the development of logic and science and all that. And that is going on for thousands of years now. As long as humanity is there, there is science too, and it is developing. Has the misery gone away? No, it hasn't. In fact, we say those old good days, means those days were probably happier, you see. In those old good days, so probably those earlier days were happier days for human beings. So, by that, the miseries and sufferings do not go away. So we have to find out that what is the practical way of going beyond the suffering. And that way comes through transcendence of that which causes misery. This I and the world, this division is a fictitious division. Although we rely on it for everything. But if I tell you to draw a demarcating line where I ends and the world begins, now you will see that you can't do it. Everything that appears to be I is part of the world. And whatever is in a world, it is part of me. For example, the food, you all must have taken lunch. So it was out there, part of the world. Now do you not call that as I? After it comes under your, inside this bag of skin, now you call it as I. So is it world or is it you? Everything is like that. You may say, no, this is I. I am this. You go to barber, cut your hair, now that hair is lying there. Do you call it as I? You won't call it as I. That's not I. It is this division being not real. Let us put it in carve it on our minds in stone, that this division is erroneous. Sometimes people say that Vedanta says that the world is unreal. And people feel by that, okay, so I am seeing all this that is unreal. That is not the understanding that Vedanta wants us to get. The understanding is that what you call I and world, this division is not real at all. It is one. There is no dividing line. So, you can't, because you cannot show where one ends and the other begins. So, this is therefore also the cause of misery. How? Very simple to see. See, we might not have studied much mathematics or science or whatever, and I also didn't study much, but we can easily understand that when there is the I and world, what happens is lot of desires come up. Desire to grab things from the world. And that is a process that never gets completed. In fact, the world keeps us exciting more and more to get more and more out of it. And also, what you get, that you go for getting something and you may get it. But the moment you get it, you feel that's not what I was asking for. That does not remain so dear anymore. You want to get something else. And therefore it becomes a pain. Our going and grabbing something, and we do it for pleasure, for happiness. Nobody says, let me grab misery. But the problem is that before grabbing, It was pleasure. As soon as we grab, that very thing becomes suffering. And that is why there is no cessation of suffering while this division persists in our awareness. And what we call our understanding, our logic, always takes for granted this division, that I, this world, and the connection between the two, cause, effect, and that which connects this cause and effect, that is taken for granted. And therefore, wherever that is taken for granted, there is no end to sufferings. It is this world, therefore, as you must have read in Bhagwan Buddha's analysis of it, that it is full of suffering. There is only suffering. Sarvam dukkham, sarvam kshanikam, sarvam shunyam. All, sarvam means everything without exception in this world is full of dukkha, suffering. There is no escape from it. If we are in this world, where in this world in the sense that I and the world, if this separation is real for us, then there is no escape from suffering. There is no escape from this impermanence. Everything is kshanik, means impermanent, momentary. That it comes and goes. It appears, but you can't get it. It is momentary. And to try to grab these things which are momentary, we call it practical. Yesterday in the talk I was telling one lady that, look, about this practicality and all that, is it practical, will you call it practical to chase horizon? If you want to catch the horizon, how long will you have to run? How far is horizon? How far is horizon? Even this Anujna can tell. How far is the horizon? Huh? 1 mile. If you go 1 mile, do you catch it? See, everybody is laughing at you, dear. So you have said something silly. But everybody else also will agree that it may appear 1 mile or 2 miles, but even if you keep on running all your life, you will never be able to catch it, because such a thing does not exist. So catching happiness in this world is like that, catching horizon. If you see somebody who says, let me go and I want to make my home where the horizon is, that person, will you call that person practical person? Not a practical person. You choose some other proper existing place. Horizon is just a visual deception. It doesn't exist. It just appears but doesn't exist. Exactly like that, in this world, happiness does not exist. And so one has to go beyond. That is called transcendence. But beyond here does not mean just transcendence, that it is here and then it remains here and you go beyond that. It is transcendence, and there is a very beautiful word in Vedanta, that is, it is transcendentally immanent. It is sarvatita and sarvagata. the two words come, that it is sarvatit, means beyond everything. It is transcendent to everything. And yet, everything is interpenetrated, percolated by that. To give you an analogy, all of you see movies sometimes or other. You have seen movies. Now in movie, all these pictures that you see, and they keep on shifting, changing. That is why it gets called a movie. The pictures move. Pictures keep on moving. What does not move is the screen. Now where is the screen? Well, it is transcendent. It is beyond the pictures. It is beyond the pictures in every sense. In the sense, whatever happens in the pictures, that doesn't affect the screen. You may have a big fire. I remember in my college days I had seen a movie, Towering Inferno. Some of you might have seen that, Towering Inferno. A big, such fire, and the photography was done with such effect that you feel, hey, there is such big fire. And you were seeing it where? Right in front of you on the screen. Screen did not get burned by that fire, even did not become hot. It is so whatever is happening in the movie does not touch the screen. Screen in that sense is transcendent over the movie. And yet, the screen is penetrated in everything in it. The screen is actually the reality of whatever is you see happening. If you say, well, there is so much fire, let me pour some water there to put it out. Will the fire be put out? The fire in the movie will still keep on raging, the screen will get wet. Because the screen is the reality. Think of all of us as these pictures, this is a big 3D movie. It's a 3D movie. All these pictures, these are all pictures, you see. And what is the screen on which all these pictures are? You can call that as God, or the Brahman, or the Atman. It is called Atman, the self of all, because in every picture, the reality is the same screen. The reality here, that is when you talk of my reality, my innermost entity, we call it Atman, the self. When we talk of it as reality of everything, we call it Brahman. So, that is the reality of everything that you see in the movie. That is Brahman, or that is Atman. That is the reality. It is transcendent and transcendently immanent. And it cannot be reached through reason. The events in the movie you can somehow rationally connect. But not how the screen is connected to those pictures. That cannot be rationally told. It is reason ends there. And this fact is, since it cannot be explained by reason, you won't see them in the books of science. But then the artists come forward. Art goes beyond science. There is the artistic way by which you show the limitation of reason, limitation of science. When I was talking about at our lunch table today, Prapandananji asked me that is it like Alice in Wonderland? Exactly. Yeah, Alice in Wonderland. Now those things are not possible in this land. It is not. It is there, but they are quite possible in Wonderland. It is in Wonderland. It is possible, and that Wonderland is not unreal. It is unreal if we consider this alone as the reality. But if you see that your world of thought, it is much bigger. Like in that book you see that the cat. The cat is there and the cat is as it were smiling. The cat, and then afterwards the cat fades away but the smile remains. Now this is not possible in our physical world that we see. The cat goes means its smile also goes. No, but if you understand how our activities in the mind go on, you will see that a person goes away from your sight, but a few impressions that the person has left, they keep on lingering behind. So that is how the artist present it. And you cannot really put a mathematical formula to it. That okay, this is the differential equation to show how the cat vanishes, leaving behind the smile. No, that is not possible for science or mathematics, but artists can go beyond. This topic, today's topic, I learned, the children teach us a lot. And we had a children's camp going on, and we were having some lunch or something, and then I was also sitting there, and some children started discussion on Harry Potter. It is a common topic for children to discuss and debate. This is something that happened about 7-8 years ago. So, Harry Potter. And then one child said, "Oh yes, and he has to catch the train at platform 9 and 3/4. My ears got Oh, I see. Can you tell me please what is it?" Oh, then I had not read that book, but I had seen children reading that book with such tremendous intensity. I know one child had come about 9 years, 10 years old, and then her parents had come, and she didn't want to come with the parents because she was absorbed in this book, and she came only with this condition that she will keep on reading the book, they should not tell her not to read. And literally it was amazing to see her. Her eyes were in the book, and when she was eating and whatever is in the plate, she was putting it in. The eyes are on the on the book. So much absorbed in it, and the expressions were changing on the face because the mind was moving with the story. Now what is going to happen next, and so forth, you see. So the story was presented with tremendous excitement for even the grown-ups. We say about children, but even we like to read, our versions are a little different, that's all, but still it is fiction, you see. The most books read by people, even the grown-ups, are not the books of history, and not the books, certainly not of philosophy, not of mathematics. What is read most? Fiction. What does it indicate? Just think about it. Why do we like fiction more? Well, that could be a topic for another lecture, but then just think of it, that why do we like fiction more? And it is here that we find that there is the world that is beyond this world. This world of suffering, we don't want that. It is a subconscious thought that there is an escape route and there you will find happiness. So we read fairy tales, this, that, and those fairy tales end with, and then they lived happily ever after. What does it indicate is that we somehow feel that there is a place where all these sufferings are going to end. And that is not part of this world, and therefore this story actually ends there, and then they lived happily thereafter, because there is nothing much to tell after that. It is because that somehow that boy and girl, they got together, got married, and afterwards we know what happens. So it is, let us not talk about it. So it is but that in the children's camp they started telling me about that story, how it happens, how Harry Potter gets into that platform 9 3/4, who can get into it. Not all cannot get into it. There is only certain, those who are having this admission to the wizard school because of their special nature. They alone are able to get to that platform number 9 3/4. For others, not only that they cannot get there, for them such a thing does not exist. That is why in this world, if you say about those who are die-hard materialists and scientists, I don't mean to say all scientists. What I mean there is that those who consider there is nothing beyond science, they would say that such a thing does not exist. Yeah, even mind does not exist. What exists is brain, because you cannot show the mind. And so even the psychology has also to be just the study of brain. Neurology, psychology becomes for many people no different from neurology. So it is because that is something physically tangible. Beyond that, nothing exists. That is how the platform 9 3/4 does not exist for this category of people. In this Harry Potter book, they are called Mughal world. Mughal. Is it right? Mughal word. Mughal word. Mughal word. So Mughal means they do not accept that there can be anything beyond what physically appears. They have no idea for faith in magic. So it is the Mughal world. That is what they understand. And we shall see a short clip that many of you have seen these Harry Potter movies and read Harry Potter books. So we will see that short clip of how that Harry Potter gets onto it.
Sorry?
Excuse me. Excuse me.
That's why you let me.
Excuse me, sir. Can you tell me where I might find platform 9 3/4?
9 3/4? You think you're being funny, do you?
Selling every year, packed with muggles, of course. Come on. Platform 9 3/4 this way. All right, Percy. You first. Red, you next.
Honestly, woman, you call yourself our mother.
Oh, I'm sorry, George.
I'm only joking. I am Fred.
Excuse me. Could you tell me how to get onto the platform? It's not to worry, dear. It's Ron's first time to Hogwarts as well. Now all you've got to do is walk straight at the wall between platforms 9 and 10. Best do it at a bit of a run if you're nervous. Good luck.
Said in Jnana Yoga book that whatever we think that we will be able to know everything, but the wall of time and space stands before us that we cannot penetrate through because we are this Mughal world and we are sticking only to logic. And that depends on time, space, that is taken for granted. But this is another world. We have to break through that wall. This is the message, friends, from the Vedanta, that the truth cannot be confined in time and space. One has to go beyond that. We have to go beyond rationality. We have to go beyond logic. And that is why we have to go by the experience of the sages who have gone beyond it. Like this Harry Potter, he got the ticket. His beneficiary or his, say, godfather, he brought him all those these things needed for this wizard world. And then he got the admission there and he said, okay, this is your ticket for that Hogwarts, that express, that train that goes to Hogwarts. So it is, keep it carefully. And then I don't want to go into the details. This story is very beautifully narrated. He somehow gets dropped on the station, King Cross. Now because of the popularity of the book and the movie, now it has become a tourist spot, They have made all those nice erections, these different stalls of Harry Potter, the scene of the platform number 9 3/4, the wall and so forth. So it is, but there, now he is confused. Where is platform 9 3/4? In the movie he is asking that employee of that train company there, hey, where to go? That he is seeking guidance. Where is this platform 9 3/4? 9 is seen. 10 is seen. 9 3/4. And the man on duty says, don't be funny. Don't go. I tell you, yeah, what is this? In the book, it is more elaborately discussed. That he asks again, hey, I don't have time. Yes, there is nothing. Such a thing does not exist. Platform number 9 is there. Platform number 10 is there. And you have a wall in between that is to be broken through. See, this Harry Potter, he is hesitating how to go. And there is this message, he saw the other three kids going one after another. And then he asked that mother of these kids, how can you... And she knows these difficulties, so she said, don't worry, just go and hit that wall. In fact, in the book it is written, it is better to go and run, so that you will not get scared and stop. In movie it is shown by just expressions, but in the book it is, these words are very telling. That when we come to the wall, when we see wall, we are scared of going and hitting and breaking our head there. No, one has to be fearless. One has to be fearless. We will lose what? Our ego. And that has to be given up. If we want the truth, what is to be sacrificed? This ego has to be sacrificed. That is our confinement within time and space, our identification with body and mind. And thus, if we are scared, we will not be able to go beyond. So hit there, don't get scared. Religion is not for those who are scared. Swami Vivekananda therefore said it multiple times that the one important word that comes from Vedanta to us is Abhi, be fearless. Yeah, it is. But we are afraid of losing our identity, so-called identity. Even Sri Ramakrishna was testing Vivekananda at that time. He was Narendranath and asked him, suppose there is a glass filled with nectar up to the brim, and suppose and think you are a fly. How will you seep that juice there? Narendranath replies, I will very carefully sit on the rim of that glass, protrude my that trunk, and slowly, very carefully will try to sip it. And Sri Ramakrishna, why fear, what is it? Why don't you just jump into it? If I fall, I'll drown in it. Remember, it is the juice, this nectar. Nobody is dead by jumping into nectar. You become immortal. So our fear of losing this ego, that makes us, remain confined into this, what is called mathematical logic. This logic, tarka. I had a conversation with many mathematicians of great repute. And then I posed this question to them, that this is a very interesting problem that try to solve. That in mathematical terms it would be something like this. Can you make a set with fractional objects in them? This set has to have only the whole numbers as the number of objects in them. In mathematical term, it's called cardinal number of the set. So every set can have only a whole number as a cardinality. A positive number, whole number, can alone become the cardinality of a set. What about the fractions? we have no such, even we cannot conceive of such a set. I was talking to one very highly reputed mathematician who comes to our center in Providence. He used to be in MIT, very devoted disciple of Swami Sarvagatananji and wonderful Vedantist. So when I gave him this problem, he said, okay, I'll think about it. And then afterwards he sent me an email. Okay, I have found a solution that you can define division of sets like this, and then the division of the cardinal numbers of the two sets could be thought of as a fractional cardinality. But before I could finish reading the email, I saw his next email, where he says, sorry, that will not work. It will create more contradictions. So it is like that. There is we cannot conceive of it. And all our logic is based on that, friends. Step 1, step 2. There is no step in between. Because then that step will become step number 2. If you put a step, say, no, let me put one more step in between step 1 and step 2. Then that one that you put in between, that becomes step number 2. Am I clear? So it is therefore by the very structure of logic, friends, it is impossible to reach the truth. It is very limited, tremendously limited. It cuts out most of the truth. It is like a mesh. Suppose you have a strainer and then you want to catch actually everything in that. And all liquid you think you can pour through the strainer and everything should be caught. Then it is, first of all, there are only the distance between the threads is there. Everything will seep down. If it is more, then most of it will go. Nothing will, only whatever sticks to those wires or shreds, that will be what you will be getting. And that we call as the wonderful knowledge that we have. Whatever sticks between this 1, 2, 3, 4, that, and majority is lost. We do not see that. And that is why putting all these ideas in one aphorism of this Vedanta, all these Upanishadic ideas, that Vyasa, the author of these Vedanta Sutras, writes this aphorism that Tarka Apratishtha, logic is baseless. It doesn't have its own basis. Whatever you want, that logic you can use to prove that. And this proof is of that type, nothing more than that. There is, in science, you cannot prove anything in science. You can disprove, but you can never prove. That is, because in science you have some data, and then based on that data you find some correlations, and thus you say that this is the truth so far observable. But can you ever say that in future some facts will not come up which will negate this truth? In fact, the history of science is replete with such incidents. Therefore, science cannot prove anything. This is to be understood, friends. And so if we want bliss, then we have to go beyond. That it is hold on to the great sages. and practice what they have taught without bothering the heads with too much this ratiocination and logic and bringing in a so-called science as if that is sacrosanct. That is not correct. It has its own follies. And so it is important, friends, that use science. Do not get limited by it. It is important. Use dishwasher, but it has limited. Don't use it for cooking, you see. So that is how it is. So thank you, friends. I was very happy to discuss these beautiful ideas before you, and I hope I have been able to convey my point to some extent. I have used logic to show that logic is not enough. Thank you.